Most engines these days are fuel efficient, low emissions, clever things, designed to be as low impact as possible. And that's not counting the electric cars that don't even have them. It's a philosophy that's shot through the entire motoring industry, and with good reason. Even Bentley has hybrids, and Bentley is the last bastion of hard-drinking petrol engines. These are cars made with interiors made from small herds of good-looking cows for people who wear boat shoes and their jumpers wrapped around their shoulders. But Bentley won't stop there. The company is committed to making only electric vehicles from 2030, carbon neutral in the same year, and aims to be the most sustainable luxury automotive brand in the world, which sounds a bit like an oxymoron. There are even Bentley bees now resident at the factory, presumably producing honey that smells of leather and rich people.
This, however, is the Bentley Batur, and it does not care about bees.
This is the most expensive, most powerful production Bentley ever made. Probably the last outing for the famous bi-turbo 6-litre W12 engine that first appeared nearly 2 decades ago. This time with 730 brake horsepower and 737 pounds-feet of torque.
Which is quite a lot. You think I'm joking? Well, I was driving up this small volcano here in Tenerife, and a few minutes ago I could have sworn that it was erupting, and then I revved the Batur for a little while and it sucked all of the oxygen out of the atmosphere and put it out. This car at full chat will ingest over a tonne of air per hour, and air is notoriously light. That's a lot of air.
It costs a cool £1.6 million, is pretty much bespoke, and that's before you get into the customisation options that will make a billionaire cough. Best not prang it then.
Whoa, hang on a minute. You see, the thing is, the Batur is quite obviously based on a Bentley Continental GT. So a Conti W12 that costs 1.6 million quid for a scowly face and a bit of a power bump is, quite frankly, stupid.
The fastest Conti, a 650 brake horsepower W12 Speed, now in its final phase of build, would cost about £230,000. So what are you actually getting for nearly 7 times the price? Well, for a start, this isn't technically a Bentley Batur. It's a very limited edition Bentley Batur by Mulliner, which means it vibes around the old Bentley tradition of coach building, or bespoke bodies dropped onto more familiar bones. It's the successor to the Barchetta Bacalar, and like that car, it's named after a body of water, in this case Lake Batur in Bali. But this time it's a 2-seat coupe, with carbon fibre bodywork, which makes sense.
Underneath, this is basically a Continental W12 Speed, albeit it's got more power, more torque, more of everything. It's got this 8-speed box with paddles, full air suspension, and you obviously get this mode control rotary dial here, which goes from Sport, Bentley, Comfort and Custom, and that alters things like the suspension settings, the exhaust valves, the throttle response, the steering, that sort of stuff, all the usual thing. And then there's electric anti-roll control. That's a 48-volt system which keeps the car very, very flat no matter how hard you're cornering. It's got an E-diff, it's got 4-wheel steering. It's basically Bentley taking its entire inventory of good stuff and dumping them into the Batur. And you know what? All of that just conspires to make this car feel a lot lighter and more nimble than it actually is. It's a very heavy car. It's well over 2 tons. In fact, when you really get going, it just headbutts the horizon, and then it'll carve around a corner like a leather-lined bobsleigh. It's absolutely spectacular. It really shouldn't do the things it does.
Is it pretty? Well, that's subjective, so I'll leave that up to you. But what it is in the metal is actually conservatively jaw-dropping. This is apparently the design direction for all upcoming Bentleys, including the electrified ones. And actually, it's a conservative look, but when you stand next to it, it's actually really pretty. Now, there's lots of subtle stuff. Like I said, this has got carbon fibre bodywork, so it allowed Bentley to be a bit more creative with the shapes and the surfacing. And actually, I just think it looks a little bit less fat than normal Conti. It's got sharper edges, it's got slimmer openings for the headlights and the taillights, a more upright grille. And then everything's just a little bit leaner, a little bit tighter and more focused. And then there's this spine that starts here right over the headlight and comes all the way down the side of the car, over the 22-inch wheel, and runs basically the length of the car and into this massively pumped up haunch. Now Bentley calls it resting beast stance, so it's supposed to offer potency without being aggressive. It's supposed to just look super muscular. And then as it flows round the back, you see again really slim tail lights, and then it's got like a trompe-l'oeil effect because the bottom half of the bumper is actually dark, and then down there is titanium exhaust finishes for real. The weird thing about this car is it kind of looks what a Conti GT would look like from a science fiction movie in 2035, which is kind of what it is when you think about it.
But the rest of it is actually quite recognisably a Bentley Continental GT.
This is all very interesting. There's a steering wheel and a screen and a gold effect starter button surround on some of the cars. Although it's not gold effect, it's actual 18 karat gold. These ones here are titanium. Some of this dash is 3D printed for full custom spec. There's a sound wave that you can have laser etched on the glove box top, and you can have Mulliner make your Batur as individual as your fingerprints. Although I'm sure the taste police might get involved if you go properly mental.
Now in some of these cars there are weird options, like you can have a composite material that's basically made from flax. Yes, that is carbon fibre made out of weeds. There's leather that is made out of very special recycled materials. There's carpets that are made out of recycled plastics. You can even have certain materials that are made from this byproducts of coffee roasting, though I have to say it does smell completely normal in here. It's got that kind of psychic weight of rich, like I almost feel posher just sitting in it. And one of the best things about this car, that it does have a stereo system by Name Audio that weighs in as an option at £50,000. Now you probably think that's a stupid amount of money for a stereo, but when you listen to it, it is absolutely bonkers. But it actually has bass actuators in the seat that shake the seats, and it is stunning. It's like living in your own cinematic experience. It's one of the best in-car stereos I think I've heard. In fact, it's one of the best stereos I've heard anywhere, and it's probably worth the price of the car plus that 50 grand. I mean, if you're spending 1.6 million, it probably doesn't matter, does it?
But all of that is a mumbled apology to the environment before full electric comes out, because the Batur's party trick lives under the bonnet, and it's about as sustainable as global thermonuclear war.
So what's it actually like to drive? Well, brawny is one word, insistent is another, bloody hell are two more. Do you know when you're on a holiday aeroplane and the pilot, he puts the engines on full thrust and the whole thing just keeps accelerating? It doesn't jerk you so much as this big hand that pushes you back in the seat. That's what the Batur feels like. One of the reasons for that is that this car actually makes its maximum torque from very low for a long time. So it makes maximum torque from 1,750 RPM to 5,000. So it just makes it feel incredibly linear. Now that's thanks to new turbos. It's got better breathing, both in and out, 30% bigger intakes, and then a different Akrapovic exhaust and better charge cooling. So it's a more efficient engine with more power. We reckon this is probably accelerating from rest to 62 miles an hour in about 3.4 seconds, and it does a more than 210 miles an hour top end, so it is not a slow thing. The steering, it has to be said, even if you put it in the different modes, is a little bit light for my taste, but it is incredibly accurate. You can really point the car where you want it, and the suspension can be switched from being very, very soft and accommodating to something that's a lot tighter. It's never a hard car, that's not what this car's about, but it is accurate, which is basically all you need. And the carbon ceramic brakes, oh, they work. They basically don't stop the car, as just arrest the world underneath you. I know it makes the tyres squeal and all that kind of stuff, but this car stops better than probably anything short of a Porsche GT2 RS. It's properly stunning. I love electric cars, but if ever you wanted a real example of why pure electric motivation will never hit the spot for petrol heads, then this is the kind of car that proves the point. It's got character, it's got vibes, it makes noise, it does all of those things. Electric might be brilliant, but petrol still has a few tricks up its sleeve.
And yet the Batur is basically just completely unjustifiable. There are faster, more precise cars out there for a lot less money. And yet the entire 18-car production run has already sold out, so that kind of answers that question. The thing is, this is the most powerful, most expensive, most Bentley production car I think I've ever driven. And I think it's brilliant. There's this weird thing going on where this is a car that celebrates the past with its eyes on the future, and it's basically just an ode to British badassery. And for that, well, I just absolutely love it.